Today we're going to start a discussion of radian measures, okay? And we're going to go through this very slowly. That's why this is part 1. There'll be a part 2 and possibly even a part 3 on this, okay? So basically we have to start off with what pi is. Now we already discussed this in a previous video, but I'm going to go over this one more time because I want something to stick into your head. First of all, we already said that pi is the ratio, ratio? Meaning Euclid Book 5? That's right, you need to start studying Euclid Book 5 because this is going to start talking about ratios, and ratios lead, believe it or not, and I know there's going to be a lot of mathematicians disagree with me, but I'm going to show you how ratios will lead to the Greek letter sigma, and that video is coming up, so you don't want to miss this, okay? Alright, pi equals circumference over diameter, which means that pi equals the ratio of circumference to diameter. Alright, now then, I'm sure you've often heard that the circumference of the circle is equal to 2 pi r. How do we get that? I'm going to show you how we get that. Okay, first of all, what is 1/2 of the diameter of a circle? Well, that's real easy. 1/2 of the diameter of a circle is the circle's radius. And this is something that should have been covered with you in elementary mathematics. I have actually talked about this in previous videos, including those Euclid proofs. You need to go back to Euclid's Book 1 and Book 3 if you don't understand what a radius is, because I covered it. And if you don't understand it, you need to go back, because you're not ready for this yet. Alright, but if you have done all that, okay, now, we know that if you take the radius of a circle, you multiply it by 2, you get the diameter. Okay, so what are we going to do in this ratio? We're going to replace the d with 2r, because remember, if you take the radius of a circle, multiply it by 2, you're going to get the diameter of the circle. It's that simple. Okay, so now we have pi equaling the ratio of the circumference to twice the ratio. Pi equals the ratio of the circumference of the circle to twice the radius. Okay, and I know I stutter a lot, so I'm going to say this one more time to make sure you get this. Pi equals the ratio of the circumference of the circle to the twice the amount of the radius. Okay, so what are we going to do? We're going to abide by basic fractions. We're going to take this fraction right here times 2r over 1. Okay, so the 2r here, the 2r here cancel each other out, and you multiply that pi times 2r, you're going to get 2 pi r equaling circumference. That's where they get this. And as I said in a previous video, pi equals 3.14 and so on. You can go hundreds of digits. If you go all the way those hundreds of digits, you will find that none of them repeat themselves. Okay? It's a non-repeating fraction. It's rare, but it is a non-repeating fraction. Now, what is a unit circle? You say, well, why do we need to know what a unit circle is if we're going to talk about radian measure? Because radian measure is based on the unit circle. What is a unit circle? Well, let's talk about radians for just a second. Now, I covered this in a previous video, but I'm going to cover this again. The proper definition of a radian is an angle whose measure, and this would be the measure here, okay, this part of the circumference is cut off by this angle. That measure there is equal to the radius of the circle. Okay? So a radian, okay, is the angle that gives the arc length. This angle gives the arc length. This length right here is given of this angle right here from this. This would be considered the x-axis of the Cartesian coordinate system. You remember I talked about the Cartesian coordinate system? This would be the x-axis, and the other ray would be where the arc segment would stop. Okay? So the radian is defined as the angle. This is the angle. Okay? That gives the arc length. This is the arc length. Okay? Remember, when you're cutting off a portion of the circumference of the circle, you have an arc. And this is an arc. Okay? And the length of that arc, okay, 1 radian is defined as the angle that gives an arc length equal to the radius of the circle. This length right here is equal to this length right here. Now, I know it doesn't look that way in this picture, but if you were to draw this correctly, this length here would equal this length here, and that is 1 radian. Why do we need radians? Because when you're doing high-end mathematics, you don't want to figure number of degrees. Number of degrees don't work. You need to have a unit figure. Okay, now then, what is a unit circle? Well, a unit circle means that you have a radian, which is this arc length equal to this radius of the circle, and it happens that the radius of the circle is a unit of 1. Okay? The unit circle means that the radius is equal to 1, which means that this arc measure is also equal to 1. So, is that 1 inch, 1 mile, 1 kilometer? Doesn't really matter as long as the unit here is 1. It's 1 of something. It could be 1 inch, it could be 1 millimeter, it could be 1 foot, it could be 1 mile. As long as its measure is 1, then that is a unit circle. Alright? And hopefully I have not confused you too much. So, let's review. Real quick here. Pi equals circumference over diameter. Or, as we say, pi is the ratio of the circumference to the diameter. Alright, so we change the diameter from d to 2r. Why? Because twice the radius of a circle is the diameter of the circle. So, now pi is equal to the ratio of the circumference to twice the radius. We multiply it out, because this is a fraction here, we multiply it out, and we get 2 pi r equaling c. Circumference equals twice times pi times r. We then said that a radian is the angle, okay, that gives the arc length equal to that of the radius. Here's the arc length, here's the radius, they're equal, so therefore you have a radian. Okay? And we said that a unit circle is when the radius of the circle is equal to 1 something. It doesn't matter whether it's 1 millimeter, 1 centimeter, 1 inch, 1 foot, or even 1 mile. As long as that radius is 1 of something, then you have a unit circle. Okay? And hopefully I didn't get you too badly confused. I will now talk about radian measures in further detail in my next video. Stay tuned.